The Nintendo Switch will launch March 3rd in the UK, costing $279.99, and we've been hands-on with the machine and the launch games. I'm James from GamesRadar, and coming up in this video, we'll give you the lowdown on Zelda, 1-2 Switch, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and the machine itself. Joining me to talk all things Nintendo Switch is Matthew Elliott.
Hello!
So Matt, yes, last week we went and got hands-on with the Nintendo Switch. We played all the games that they had on offer and managed to touch the machine itself. So we'll start off with the game that everyone is obviously talking about, apart from Mario, because we didn't get to play that one. Zelda. What would you say it was like compared to, say, like the Wii U version that we've seen previously?
It's kind of difficult to say at this point, which I know isn't a particularly helpful thing to say, but it definitely looks slightly better. It's a beautiful game, but having not actually played the Wii U one, I don't really have a strong basis for comparison, but it's a really handsome looking game in a kind of like a crisp sort of Studio Ghibli kind of way, and reminds me ever so slightly of Ni no Kuni as well. But it looks lovely, and yeah, it's sort of, you may not notice like a sort of huge leap in the way it looks, but this is the machine that people are going to want to play it on for a number of reasons. Like if you're going to get it, if you're buying a Nintendo machine to play this game, you're obviously going to get the Switch.
Okay, we'll get on to the Switch console itself and how all the hardware aspects of it work, but obviously one of the big things for Zelda is you can now take it with you.
Yeah, of course, yeah, and this is, like, naturally is the big selling point of the machine. It's kind of a good indicator of how it works as a concept, and also how long it'll last you when you take it out and start carrying it around as well. So we had a bit of a play around with it, and we were playing it while the Switch was docked, so it was on the screen. And then we actually did the clicking and the taking off. We didn't actually use the Joy-Cons to sort of click it in and take it off. We had the sort of Elite controller that was plugged in and ready to go, and it just works pretty much seamlessly. There was a slight delay, and from all the stuff that we've seen, general battery life when you take the machine out of the dock is 2.5 hours to 6, and they said for Breath of the Wild you're looking at about 3 hours battery life.
Because it's quite an intensive looking game, basically.
Yeah, that's quite a good indicator, because it is, it looks like it's going to be quite resource intensive. So 3 hours is kind of like, for a powerful game, that's how much you can expect it to last. But yeah, like nothing but good things to say about it, really. We only had 20 minutes hands-on time with it. But I would have just loved more, and it felt like it was one of those games where you start out and you look around and there are potentially you could go in any direction. I wanted to go and fight because I found an axe, but just it's full of lovely little touches, like when you have the axe, you can use the axe to chop down trees. When you chop down trees, that's an easy way of getting apples. Everything can be cooked, so an apple is better for you once you cooked it, and things, stuff that you see in loads of other games, but given a nice sort of Nintendo-y spin. It just feels sort of really generous with its ideas and really warm and enjoyable.
Great. Well, some of the other games we got to play while we were there were Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and ARMS, which we'll get onto in a second. But the big sort of party game that they're selling it with is 1-2 Switch, which is a collection of essentially mini games and tech demos in a way. So we had a go on a cow milking game, Gunslinger, Samurai Safecracker, Guess How Many Balls Are in a Box, and
I can't remember what the proper name for that one was.
I think it was just that, right? But they all basically show off different aspects of the controller,
yeah,
in similar ways. So Gunslinger was basically like a Wild West simulator. So you don't really look at the screen,
yeah,
and then it says fire, and it's whoever can raise the controllers up quick enough and shoot the other one. There's a Safecracker game which was quite good. I think that was a turning the dial, right?
Yeah, so you're sort of waiting for the slight vibration, because this is the thing that perhaps you don't get from having seen the videos, is the sensitivity on those controllers, and the vibration is it's like meticulous. It's incredibly delicate, and you really do get a sense for when you turn the dial and you go past the bit of the safe that's vibrating, you do feel it.
I guess that was best shown off with the game that we don't know what it's called, like Guess How Many Balls Are in the Box.
Yeah, the concept is really simple, and I think everything about these games individually, they'll probably sound like they're completely disposable when they're all in one big package, and I presume going from one game to the next. It's really, really cool. So this one, you hold the Joy-Con controller flat and you move it from left to right, and you can feel the vibrations of like what you think are ball bearings rolling about inside the controller. And it's really easy to tell how many there are, and it's kind of a slightly difficult thing to describe, but you're guessing how many are in there, and it's precise enough that you have a genuine sense of are there 4, are there 5, and you're counting them, and at no point do you think there aren't balls inside this controller. So that's amazingly clever, and potentially one of the things that a lot of Nintendo first-party games will use.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that the different games do. So the samurai one of you is pretending to be a samurai. The other one has to clap to catch the virtual sword in their hands before it strikes you. That's another thing of like it being able to detect motion in different ways. They're all really clever. There's an eating one which we didn't get to play, but apparently that uses the camera on the front of one of the controllers, and you have to fake eat like food as fast as you can. So it's basically a big collection of all the tech that's on offer. Then we went on to play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is essentially just the Wii U version, right? But with a couple of new tweaks.
I think it looks slightly nicer. It's got 4 new characters and a couple of new weapons. Realistically, it's pretty much the same game. Like, you're not going to... I doubt anyone's going to buy both if they already have the Wii U version. But if you haven't, it's the best version, I presume, having only played a bit of it. And it's just still fantastic. It's a great game.
And again, it's another thing you can take with you. So when you do take the games with you, the screen on the tablet is 720, and for Mario Kart, definitely that when you plug it into the base unit, it ups it to 1080.
Yeah.
So it's like the best way to play that version of Mario Kart.
Yeah, also a little bit of a throwback to if you ever played Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS, that feeling of like crowding around with all your mates and everyone playing it all at once. That's a really good selling point for me. We were kind of playing in a group of 8, all circled around a table, all using the console undocked. And it worked seamlessly. It was brilliant.
Because you can also use the controllers to play that 2-player, but on one screen. So
yeah.
You can share 2 of the Joy-Cons on one screen and sit there together and just play it, out in a field if you wanted to.
Yeah.
The other game we played was Arms, which was sort of like a boxing game, but not quite, because you've got big flaily arms that go all the way around the place, which you really enjoyed.
I did, yeah. It's got like there's a lot of sort of proper beat 'em up DNA in there, in that you're kind of waiting for opportunities and counter-attacking and stuff. But it's also like a sort of a weird mix of something like Punch-Out, like the ancient boxing game, and also kind of motion control fighting games, stuff like the Fight Lights Out, but not rubbish. But yeah, I actually really enjoyed that. Like, I don't think it's going to be a system seller, but if it's the sort of thing that if you want to show off what the machine does, like, it works exactly as it's intended, and it's got like a sort of satisfying smack to punching someone in the face and stuff, and you're pulling off special moves and doing flurries of punches and stuff, and you kind of, you can't help but get quite into throwing your weight behind all these moves.
And finally, then the hardware itself. Now, it was definitely smaller than I imagined it was going to be.
Yeah.
That's not like a negative thing. It was just I thought it was going to be quite a big thing, but
yeah.
It's sort of like a Kindle Fire sort of size, with the controllers on the side of it. And what you don't get from some of the videos is just like how the controllers feel. So how did you find by having them in your hand?
They're very light. They're very delicate as well. I mean, that's not to say they feel cheap. I think they feel like a kind of sort of a decent bit of kit, but they do feel extremely light. And the controllers themselves are. I think when we were there, we were live streaming on the hands-on day. I said they were kind of like the Wii U controller. I think they're far more like the Vita. The sticks, especially, are much more like the Vita sticks. So they're quite sort of delicate and flicky and springy and light. Like I said, they don't feel cheap, but like I think it's going to take a little bit of getting used to. If you're used to, especially if you're kind of used to like a big chunky Xbox pad, or if you ever played on like the Duke or anything like that. There's no sense of you having your hands full with these things until they're actually docked in the clipped onto the actual screen itself, and you're holding it. And in that case, it does feel like quite a big, weighty thing, and it's quite sort of satisfying. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of handheld DNA in there, it feels.
I think it's the difference is that they're not as ergonomically designed as maybe previous things are, because they're just they're designed to clip onto the machine. So it takes a while to figure out how you're meant to hold them.
Absolutely.
Rather than just like you'd pick up a standard controller and go, I know how this works. And some of the games make you hold them in different ways. So it takes a little bit of like, I've got to hold it side on, and it's got like 20 buttons on it. So you're not quite sure which ones do which. But once you've done it like twice and played it for a minute, like it all becomes quite self-explanatory.
Yeah, I mean the games themselves are quite intuitive, but the milking game, for example, those 2 buttons that you use for that, I didn't even know they were there. They're the ones that are sort of on the interior when you clip it onto the pad, and there's 2 more buttons there that you can use to grip it. So it's there are buttons in places you daren't even dream.
So as a whole, when it's all packaged up together, it's probably got the weight of about an iPad kind of thing. Like it's that kind of heaviness to it. What did you think overall as a console for what is effectively £280?
It's really difficult to say at this point. I think I don't think the price point is that far off, because I mean there's a lot of stuff in there. Like you've got these amazing like inventive controllers that can really potentially change the way you play a lot of games. It's a touch screen as well, so I mean that kind of bumps up the price. The problem at the moment is that there aren't enough games for it, and certainly until Mario comes out at Christmas, I think it's going to be difficult to dive in when you're only looking at sort of 2 or 3 games, which is like, it's kind of a classic problem with launch consoles. Breath of the Wild, I think, will be brilliant. It'll be a system seller. Maybe for a lot of people that'll be enough reason to dive in, but I think for me I'll probably be waiting until Christmas and Mario. But certainly, like, it's an exciting time for Nintendo and a really interesting, exciting, inventive console.
Okay, well, let us know what you think about the Nintendo Switch in the comments below. For more of our gaming content, click on one of the boxes to the left, and don't forget to hit the big button in the middle for more gaming news, reviews, previews and features right here on GamesRadar Plus.